Okay, you guys, welcome to FaceTime with Nicole Jocleen. I am here with Abe Morris. Abe is a bull rider from New Jersey, and you are also in the PRCA, and you're the first or the only Black rodeo announcer.
I'm the first, but I'm not the only one. I got my announcer's card at about 1982, and then give or take, Marcus Friday got his around 2020 or so. I'm not sure, but there's only two Black rodeo cowboys that have PRCA announcers cards. I've had mine for probably about 40 years, and I think Marcus has had his for about five, give or take.
Wow. Why do you think it's only two of you guys? Do people just not go after that, or is it hard to do?
I don't really have an answer, to be honest. I was announcing a rodeo in Laramie, Wyoming, right after I graduated from college. It was a weekly rodeo, and the stock contractor told me it was a PRCA rodeo. When I first started, it wasn't, but he told me he was going to get his PRCA contractor's card, and for me to continue being the announcer, I was going to have to apply to get my PRCA announcer's card, and that was around 1981 or 82. And so I applied at the time. I had no idea that there were no other Black announcers in the PRCA. All I tried to do was get my PRCA announcer's card, which I did, and the rest is history.
So when you got it, did anyone say to you, you're the first Black person to do this, or it's just something that you just found out on your own?
I found that on my own. I had no idea. I never researched it. To be honest, Nicole, I didn't really care. All I wanted to do was just get my announcer's card. I already had a contestant's card, and I'd been a member of the PRCA since about 1978, I think, something like that, give or take. And I was just doing what I needed to do at the time, because I was announcing rodeos, and I just wanted to keep going with it, and I liked it. It was a lot of fun. So that's all. I wasn't trying to be historical or anything like that. I was just doing what I needed to do.
Now you have a bull riding background. Um, what part do you feel like has been most fulfilling, the bull riding or the announcing?
I'd say both. I really couldn't put an emphasis on either one. The bull riding, I've done well. I've done well enough to qualify for circuit finals. I've gone to, back then it was called the Dodge National Circuit Finals, and then it became Ram National Circuit Finals, and now it's called the PRCA Open. So I did well with my bull riding career. I was, I would say I was right in there in the top with some of the best bull riders. I just didn't go as hard as some of them, and I never qualified for the National Finals Rodeo. But announcing, for me, my highlights would definitely be a television commentator, because I announced the world famous Cheyenne Frontier Days Rodeo for it was either 8 or 9 years consecutively for television. And so that was something that was really big for me. The first year that I announced Cheyenne was July 30th, 1989. I ended up interviewing probably about 10 to 15 guys before the rodeo started. And one of the guys that I interviewed was Lane Frost. He was a 1987 PRCA world champion bull rider. And we were on camera. I asked him questions. I shook his hand. I said, good luck. And it was a very fateful day. Lane got killed that day, and I cried like a little baby.
Does that memory ever like just go away? Do you ever, when you go to other rodeos and you see other people out there on bulls, does that ever come back to your mind?
It comes back to my mind even right now. I get sad just thinking about it. I don't talk about it a lot, and but whenever I go to Cheyenne, if somebody asks me about it, yeah, it sticks out in my mind. And I guess just to kind of segue was with some of the things that had happened to me in my rodeo career, coming from New Jersey, being the first Black cowboy to have an announcer's card. There's no doubt I was the first. I may always be the only Black cowboy that ever announces a PRCA rodeo on television. That might never go away. But I had a lot of different significant achievements and accomplishments, and people told me I need to sit down, put those on paper. So several years later, about 2005, I ended up writing my autobiography called My Cowboy Hat Still Fits.
So you have another book too. It's Not My First Rodeo.
I do. And that one hasn't been published yet.
Okay.
Yeah, but it will be. I've actually finished the book. I'm proofreading the book right now as we speak. And I talked to my publisher last week. I told her I would send her the entire proofread manuscript by the end of this week.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
deadline.
Yeah. By the end of this week, I told her, and I finished the book probably about 45 days ago, but
Okay.
I'll send her the manuscript. She said she's very, very excited to read it. And she tells me all the time I'm her favorite author because
Um,
I've done well. I've done well with that book. This book will be my third book. The second book I wrote was called Justin, A Father's Fight for his Son. But
mhm.
the only reason I wrote that book is because when we were doing the proofreading from my first book, I was telling her all these horror stories about the trials and tribulations of trying to have just even visitations with my biological son. And, Annette told me, she's from Pronghorn Publishing. She said, you need to write this book. And she said, if you write the book, I'll publish it. And she did. So that was my second autobiography. And then I pretty much didn't want to write anymore. I was done. And, I've had some different things happen to me as far as other rodeo stories. And I started a little homemade cookie business where I bake the cookies and that's going pretty well. I'm the only person that does it. And people said, you have enough rodeo stories, other stories that, you can talk about and put in the book. And so, it's just all part of my life. So I honestly believe, and this is just my opinion, the title of the book is, again, this ain't my first rodeo, but I believe this book will outsell my first two books put together. I really do.